And I have to say, this has been one of the most exciting podcasts that I've been wanting to do. Kat Schneider, founder of Ritual, is on the SheMD podcast with us today. And it's all because I've had a girl CEO crush on you. I literally have followed your story starting Ritual all the way until now. You know, I'm always interested in women that find something wrong in society and then say, screw all of you, I'm going to fix it. And that's what you did. And I want you to tell us all the story.
So feel equally the same about both of you guys. So inspiring and so excited to be here because it's like the real deal, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I am an immigrant, a refugee from Ukraine. I moved into a welfare hotel in Brooklyn, came from nothing. My dad became an entrepreneur. I saw the American dream before my very eyes. And I knew I wanted to start something, but nothing ever kept me up at night. There was nothing that I couldn't stop thinking about. And to be vulnerable, I didn't think I was good enough. I looked at, you know, who else was starting multi-billion-dollar businesses, who else was raising venture capital, and it was all guys. And I think my career through finance and music industry and media, venture capital, it was all men around me. And so there was this little voice in my head that I wasn't good enough. I didn't have the idea, but I knew I had this hunger and passion inside of me. I was so passionate about health my whole life. And when I got pregnant, I had to take a prenatal vitamin, as one does. And I realized what I saw on the market wasn't something that I trusted and wasn't something that I wanted to put in my body every single day as someone who cared this deeply about her health. And everything from elevated levels of heavy metals to products that were even lacking in key essential nutrients that women needed in some of the most essential stages of their lives. So I knew that I had to change the supplement industry. I felt this urge that I couldn't do anything else, that I had to solve the problems in the supplement industry bigger than prenatal and really set a new standard in the category through traceable science, through traceable sourcing. And now we have one of the leading prenatal vitamins in the US, and it's obviously a lot more than what we do, but it's definitely a reflection that there's so many other people that really cared about the quality of the supplements that they were putting in their bodies.
You launched with one product, right?
Yeah, I launched with one product, and that was super intentional. I read this book by John Maeda, who's a RISD professor, The Art of Simplicity, and it's all about like reductionism. And I'm going to build a company, you have to almost build a house, and you have to build the foundation. So we actually launched a multivitamin for women 18 plus, and through that we earned trust. And this product was definitely a labor of love. But what we did, it kind of blew the lid on the category, I think, because I hired a bunch of scientists, some of which you know, and we looked at multivitamins, and we were like, wow, actually a lot of people are getting plenty of nutrients from the average American diet, but what is it that they're actually lacking? Mm-hmm. And it's so many fewer nutrients than you would think, and a lot of them weren't even in most of the multivitamins in the forms and the dosages that were necessary. So that was the first. There was a lack of clinical studies in the category. I was just researching, trying things out, realized this category has exploded. It's gone from 4,000 to 90,000 supplements without any major updates to regulation. Mm. And what I saw was people like myself. I call our customer the chief health officer of her house because she's like making all the decisions. She's basically her own like federal agency.
It's true.
You're like turning around the product. You're like, is this safe?
What are the ingredients?
Yeah. What are the ingredients?
For your kids, for yourself, for your husband, everybody in the house. Yeah.
And so that's what we solved for, and we're solving for. We created 100% ingredient traceability. So on
Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, I think it can mean a lot of things in a lot of different categories. Our culture personally is so focused on clean, which is, who knows what that means. We're so focused on what our things are made without that we've lost sight of what our products are actually made with. And that's what I felt when I was walking up and down the aisles, being my own federal agency, even though supplements are regulated, whole other conversation. And I realized that I knew where what pasture the eggs were being laid in for my kids, omelets. And I knew where the kale in my salad was coming from in the same store, but where was my vitamin D coming from? Where were my omega-3s coming from? Where is the folate coming from? We just have so little information for this health product. Like where are those ingredients coming from? And so that's the idea of traceability. It was actually this idea that's bigger than us. It's the idea that women deserve to know what they're putting in their bodies and why. And culturally, nothing could be more relevant. And so that's the idea of traceability was born. And through a lot of work, still a lot of heavy work, we actually show where our ingredients come from in the world down to the manufacturer and the final destination of manufacturing and the supplier and source. So omega-3s from microalgae from Nova Scotia. Our D3 comes from lichen. Our folate comes from Pasticci, Italy, and it's a 4th generation folate. And I can actually tell you why it's there and what it means in your body.
I think you said it so well, was that sometimes we look at, it doesn't even matter if it's food, it could be vitamins, it can be anything. And you look at the ingredient list, you have no idea what the last half of it is, what any of those ingredients are. And it feels like what you guys did very thoughtfully was take out everything but just these key ingredients that you needed, for pregnancy, for women. I mean, and now you've expanded, all over the place. But I think, Dr. A, can you talk about pregnancy and prenatals? And, sometimes I remember when I got pregnant too, I was like, well, I need a prenatal, but I have no idea why I need a prenatal. Like, what is it in the prenatal that I need?
So in general, supplements are very important, but especially before you start trying for pregnancy, we like women taking prenatal vitamins, even when they're not pregnant. Most importantly is the folic acid in it, which blocks neural tube defects. And
what's a neural tube? Will you tell us about that?
Basically, neural tube is what develops into the brain and the spinal cord. And neural tube defects is when you get a defect in either in the brain or in the closure of the spinal cord. And basically, I don't know if you've heard of spina bifida and encephaly. So part of the brain could be missing, or part of the brain could be protruding through the skull, or the spine doesn't close, and it has devastating outcomes. And so folic acid can really reduce the neural tube defects. So definitely 3 months before pregnancy, it's very important. I usually start patients when they start trying for pregnancy. We start them on prenatal vitamins. But especially earlier on, especially with folic acid, first trimester, first months are very, very important. So that's one. Then there's omega-3s, which helps with brain development. You can have calcium, vitamin D for bone development. Moms, as the fetus takes calcium from our body, we're at risk of having osteopenia and losing bone during pregnancy. So supplementing calcium, vitamin D is very important. Iron is another one. A lot of women, we get pregnant, our blood volume changes. And I don't know if you guys remember from your pregnancy, we check for anemia early on, and then we check it again at 24 weeks, because as the blood volume expands, the hemoglobin drops. And that's why your doctor sometimes supplements you with iron. So we usually add it. Sometimes, the only issue with iron is pregnancy makes you constipated. The hormones of pregnancy make you constipated, and iron can make you constipated. So, and then it becomes more personal if you add stool softeners to that supplement or not. But overall, it's very important pre-pregnancy, during pregnancy, and then post-pregnancy, your body is recovering from giving birth.
Do you change from a prenatal? What kind of vitamin do you recommend?
It depends. Like if you have a lot of blood loss with your delivery, then you'll need more iron the first month. If you don't have blood loss and your hemoglobin is good, you don't need as much iron, because it does make some people really constipated. But as long as you're breastfeeding, we give, vitamins during breastfeeding. So I would say from pre, during, and post, until you really finish breastfeeding, you need to take these supplements.
It's so amazing when I talk to women founders, and again, lots of times there's a problem in their own life that they want to solve. So they know that needs to be solved for every woman. And so, clean, pure, good vitamins should be a right. to find an easy and again, like kind of getting under the hood of the vitamin industry, I discovered there was so much garbage being given to women and children and men and everybody. So I think there is a revolution right now happening in this country with food as well. I mean, I'm seeing it all
You really
around.
think?
Oh.
Yes, I do. I think that
I think it's going both ways, to your point.
I mean, I think it's like all these big food companies and people are saying like it's not okay. Like this is not okay.
Listen, most of the food we eat in this country, a lot of it is not even allowed in Europe, right?
Yeah. So,
And I think, yeah.
How has the regulation changed from when you started to now?
When I think about supplement regulation, I think it's really important, and I would love people to know that the industry is regulated. So a lot of people say, hey, the industry is not regulated. There are regulation. It's the enforcement, and it's giving the FDA more oversight and not less. That's something that I'm deeply passionate about.
Okay, well, talk about that because that's such an interesting point that I wouldn't think.
Yeah. So the FDA wants more funding. They want more oversight. It's working with Congress to push for that, and that's something that we've been doing on the ritual side. We even have a whole policy roadmap that's with Congress right now, and it focuses really on three basic things. I think they're basic. The first is actually mandatory product listing and ingredient listing.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be controversial. I mean, it happens in other countries, like to your point. The second is heavy metals. So I think getting specific about what we mean by what's clean, what's pure. Heavy metals are a big issue in the supplement industry. When you think about a lot of the products that you have on your counter right now, probably, it's a concentration of ingredients that are grown, right? And so there's been studies that showed 6,000 people that are consuming botanical supplements have elevated levels of heavy metals. There was a study showing that people consuming certain prenatals had elevated levels of lead.
So there's lead in the prenatals?
There's lead in
everything.
That's the other thing is like I think there's almost like a lack. There's an idea of fear mongering that does happen, and people say, "Oh my gosh, this has this and this has this." But when you actually look at heavy metals, everything has heavy metals. Water has heavy metals. So many things have heavy, but it's the amount that matters. And so the regulation that we'd like to see is actually health protective measures when it comes to heavy metals. What are those amounts? And being really transparent about that. Here in California, we have Prop 65. So if it's above 0.5 parts per million, there's a little warning. One of the things that's really important to us is actually for the FDA to set health protective measures when it comes to heavy metals. We released a plant-based protein, and people think, hey, I'm doing something great for my body. I'm consuming plant-based protein, but plant-based proteins actually have elevated levels of heavy metals. So what we did is we actually listed our heavy metal results on our site. And the last part of our policy roadmap is around the term clinically studied. There is no agreed upon definition of what that means. And so many companies are now misusing that language because it's not defined. Using the term clinically studied when you have ingredients that have been clinically studied, but not even in the forms and dosages of those clinical studies. And the ultimate is to actually have a human clinical on the finished product, so you know what it actually does collectively in your body. That's the holy grail.
Yeah. And is that what you guys do?
We have a commitment to have human clinicals on every single one of our products by 2030. We have several clinical studies under our belt, a lot of which in the areas that you mentioned earlier. Like, I'm so passionate about studying the impact that the quality of human breast milk has on infant development and brain development. For instance, we just released a choline product with one of our advisory board members. She did a whole study that was published. Mm-hmm. Dr. Marie Caudiel, she's like a pioneer in biotin research and folate research, and then choline, which is a newer essential nutrient, but is so, so important. She studied the impact that mom having choline in the third trimester, the impact that could have on adolescent brain development, and followed kids until they were 7 years of age and saw the impact that it had on processing speed.
And so many prenatal vitamins don't even have it.
No. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So for a woman listening that wants to get pregnant or even just wants to find the right vitamin for different stages of her life, like what are the tips?
I would say it goes back to when you're looking for a supplement, it goes back to two things, safety and efficacy, because those are the two most important things that we have to be advocates for ourselves, given the framework that exists. And so when I think about safety, I think about third-party testing and validation. So it's not enough to just trust the brand or the company. So some of the things that I like to look for when I'm shopping for supplements for my family that are not Ritual are certifications like Clean Label Project, for instance. It's a great certification. It tests for over 200 environmental toxins and contaminants. So it tests for heavy metals, it tests for glyphosate, it tests for things that maybe culturally have not caught up yet. And so that's a great one to look at. I love certifications like USP or NSF because what's on it, they validate what's on the bottle is actually there. And then I would, on the efficacy side of things, I would make sure to look for clinical studies. And then at the very least, ingredients that have been clinically studied and the dosages and forms that match those clinical studies. The holy grail is when you can see a product that has a finished clinical study. And then the holy grail is when that study has been peer-reviewed and published.
Wow. So how old is Ritual?
So it's funny. My daughter's having her 9th birthday in a couple weeks. So that's
with her.
Yeah, exactly. Like I started it when she was in my belly. So that's how old it is. But we didn't launch right away, obviously.
So in terms of starting the company, what are you feeling about what you accomplished?
I feel this immense sense of gratitude for people trusting the brand that I've created and put so much love into during these really critical stages of their lives. Like it almost makes me emotional. It's been so much work to do the right thing, to invest in traceability, to invest in science, to build the right team and build this brick by brick. And sometimes you think, hey, is this worth it? Or, should I take the shortcut that everyone else is taking? And I will say time in and time again that it's worth it and that it pays off. Because every hard decision that we've made as a brand has been the right one. I was told, even when I was fundraising, it was, I was like, hey, a venture capital investor told me you can either start a family or a business, but you can't do both. And here, 3 of us are doing both, right?
Exactly. Have you just been like, hello, check me out now?
If anyone can do it, we can do it. We can do 4 businesses and a family and raise beautiful children and carry them while we're doing all that.
Yeah. Discount a woman and see what happens.
No, it's like fuel. I think it drives
Totally.
us. And I think that drive of like, no, you can't do it has driven me a lot. I was told that I was really passionate about the technology of not just like the nutrients and where they come from and where they're sourced, but actually how the things get delivered in your body. And it's like, I know I'm probably not gonna be able to market this because there's so much other stuff to market, but this is important. Like, and we just got 3 patents in the last few weeks on our delivery technology. And as an immigrant founder, my parents are like, that's so cool, they don't care about anything else.
3 patents. But that is amazing. And also I have to say one of the things that struck me about Ritual was the vitamins themselves.
Yeah.
They're beautiful. They're like these little works of art, and the branding. And I actually went in a real deep dive into your branding because I was so impressed because it came out of the gate like that yellow, and it was very like visual. I was a fashion designer, so like for me, it's all about you go on your site and you want to take those vitamins. Like those vitamins are gorgeous. So I think that there was so much that had to happen at the same time that was so good. You know what I mean? I think that it was like you had a purpose, you had a reason, you had science, you found the right scientists, you had a really amazing artist. I think her name was Michelle.
Yeah.
I really know what I'm talking about because she's
gosh.
kind of amazing.
She's amazing.
But
She's
somebody that came in and also could take your vision and what you were trying to do. So I don't know. I love this story. I think it's just incredible.
It's like magic when you find the right people that help you build, and it's fun. Like it's actually, it's been really fun building. And I think there's been hard times, but I think you have to have fun in what you're doing. And the people that have been part of the Ritual journey, whether they're still at Ritual or not, have just made it so fun. And that's where the magic happens. That's where 90% of the innovation happens. It's not just the team, it's not just an idea, but it's like that crazy
Stardust that happens.
Yeah, that's that stardust of really like talented people coming together. Because I think if that didn't happen, I maybe would have stopped at like, is this clean or not clean, or is this science or not science?
Yeah.
But it was like, no, we turned into magic. We're like, we actually care about what the product tastes like. Why do vitamins taste so bad? Like, let's put let's make them taste like citrus or mint and things that women are craving during pregnancy. Let's make them look beautiful, but not just that. Like, let's make sure they get into the right places in your body where it makes sense. Like with a probiotic, getting them into the colon, which is the ideal place for the bacteria to thrive. Like that means innovation and technology, but it's not traditional, because I think when people start a business, you find this like one lane and go at it. And it was just like, let's try to just do everything right. We might not be able to market it, but together, that's where kind of the magic happens. And I don't think it just came from me. It came from, like you said, like the Michelles and the Nimas.
It's just like this. We feel the
I
same
love
way.
Nima.
I love Nima.
He's so sweet. What's next for you guys?
So that's a good question. Nima's the best. He's our chief scientific officer, ex-faculty at Harvard Medical School, way smarter than me. He should be sitting here. I think there's a lot that's next for us. I think what's next for us is actually like staying even more focused than ever before and doubling down on women's health. I think women's health is so underserved, and it actually has been an interesting process in the last year of being almost 9 years into the business, like reflecting on what I want for myself, what I want, the legacy that I want to leave for my 3 girls, and what I want for our customers. And I think women's health is something that we're in a really interesting moment where it's been understudied, underfunded. Pregnancy and postpartum are some of the most underserved communities in research, and now menopause as well. And when I was starting the business, aside from that investor that told me I couldn't start a family and a business, I was told that fertility is niche, pregnancy is niche, postpartum is niche, menopause is niche, and yet it makes up this entire collective experience that we have as women. And so what's really next for us is like pouring money into the research that not just advances our products, but advances women's health, because it impacts all of us and our generations. Yep. And like that's what brings me excitement and joy right now.
So my last 2 questions for you are, what is your favorite vitamin and what vitamins do you take?
I take a lot of our products, but more recently, I'll tell you the couple favorites that I have. I think we're in an interesting time in the world right now, and parents are managing a lot. I think we're all managing a lot with the number of 12 children we have at this table in our businesses. And we recently launched our stress product, and I don't think I realized how much I needed it until I started taking it and the difference that I saw in my life. It has ashwagandha, L-theanine, and saffron. And I think like I didn't want to go into botanicals because of some of the things I mentioned before. So it was important for me that when we did a lot of testing on the botanical ingredients and the adaptogens, and we did our work there, but it didn't stop there. And then we looked at the science, and what we saw was your cortisol spikes in the morning. And so we developed this BioSeries technology in-house that helps you manage your cortisol throughout the day. And for me, like feeling cool and collected throughout the day as I'm trying to manage everything that's going on in my life and at home has just been amazing. And I couldn't believe that you can achieve that with a supplement.
And so she just handed this to Dr. A, who definitely needs this, her cortisol levels. So how do
I
you
need like 5 of them
you said
a day.
don't take it at night. So
I take it in the morning because that's how the release was. That's how it's been designed. The other one that I really love, and we just released our clinical study results on. So, as you know, Dr. Nima, like we have this legit scientific team. We have 20 scientists, the academics, PhDs in dose delivery, registered dietitians. We work with the medical community. And so when our customers were saying, and our community was saying, hey, like, we would love for you to go into skincare, our scientists were like, no, there's nothing there. And I'm like, look harder. Like, there's got to be something. Because I'm deathly afraid of needles. I'm purist when it comes to skincare. And I'm like, I would love to take something internally that makes me feel really good. And so we developed this skincare product that works on fine lines and wrinkles and hydration called Hyacera. And we found 2 of the world's most clinically studied ingredients. It's called Hyacera because it has a lower molecular weight hyaluronic acid and a phytoceramide oil from France. So the hyaluronic acid is from Japan and the oil is from France. And we showed in a clinical study that it had a 300% reduction in crow's feet.
What? We're going to try that.
And it was just like,
we're going to come next time we see you, we're going to be like, hello, I doused a bottle a day.
Yeah. And it sounds so crazy, and I sound crazy for saying it, but like.
Have you been taking it?
I've been taking it.
Because look at her skin.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You really have good skin.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
think
you
hair
do too.
You guys all have, yeah. You guys
Listen, we're all hot. We're just going to say that. It's true. We have.
We're hot, and by hot, you mean like
we're
it's really hot in here.
We're definitely hot. We're very in menopause every year, but like.
I also love our fertility product. I don't take it because I don't want to have another child right now. I'll just say that. But I love the access that it brings to people that are trying to have kids later in life and some of the challenges they're having. Like, we looked at the fertility space, and the products on the market were so focused on egg health only. And when you look at some of the challenges, we developed a product that really hit on follicular health, egg health, and ovarian health. And knowing Nima has the right scientific dosages that match the clinical research, was first of its kind. And we just had our fertility event the other night, and like, people were, I think the idea of having control of something that is
out of your control
is just something that makes me feel really proud.
It was so nice meeting you. You're amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I have really wanted to meet you for a really long time. No, I really am I'm so impressed by everything that you've built at Ritual, and I just can't wait to see you take it even further than you've already taken it. 9 years is not that long.
No.
I mean, it really isn't. To have done what you have done in 9 years is really impressive. So you should pat yourself on the back and make sure those little girls know that their mom is a badass, because you are building this for them, and it should be like the same way food. It should be your right to have clean, good food. You should be able to know what's in your supplements and not get poisoned by something that you think is good for you.
Yeah.
I mean,
my daughter calls them fancy vitamins.
They look
they
like
are
vitamins.
fancy.
They're pretty. We can't wait.
Why is Ritual so fancy? I'm like, well, I don't know. I've never said that, but it's cool. No,
amazing.
thank you guys.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Fun.
And also, you have a podcast coming out. I just heard. What's your podcast called?
For the Real Bodybuilders.
For the Real Bodybuilders. Okay, so when is it? And when is it coming out? January?
January is going to come out.
And how did you come up with the name?
We launched our protein product, and we were thinking about who are the real bodybuilders, and it was women building bodies. And you can imagine that tagline over a pregnant belly. It's just so powerful. And so we wanted to extend that into a podcast that was really shining a spotlight in women's health and having a little bit like TMI conversations. And I was asking the questions that people were too afraid to ask around fertility, around menopause, around pregnancy, postpartum, and having leading experts on there, and then also friends and keeping it light.
Yeah, fun.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's going to be fun. You're going to have a fun time. I'm super excited to see everything that you do. So thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you guys. You guys are the best.
Thanks for coming.
I'm so inspired.
Thanks so much for joining us today. For more tips, visit shemdpodcast.com. Remember, if you want to own your health, follow us on SheMD Podcast on social media and subscribe to this podcast so you can stay strong, healthy, and empowered. SheMD. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for a physician's medical advice. You should regularly consult your medical provider in matters relating to your own health. Even though we share our honest beliefs on SheMD, some of the products and services we discuss may involve sponsorships or paid advertising.